All right, so let's review some pairs in JavaScript, writing some jest code. Oh, geez, what happened? All right. All right, so some pairs, fork it over. I already forked it over right there. Is it some pairs? Or is it some pairs one? Oh, looks like I already had it somewhere on my local machine or on this, so it's called some pairs one right now. Anywho, so let's take a look at it. So it says write a method that takes an integer array and a desired sum. So it takes in 2 arguments. The output will be a pair of numbers from the inputted integer array that equal the desired sum. If there are no pairs that work, then return unable to find pairs. So an example here, we have a couple. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The input is 9. It returns 4 and 5 because 4 and 5 are the only integers within this array that sum up to 9. The next example is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're looking for a sum of 7. So it looks like there's 2 and 5 as well as 3 and 4. So 2 and 5 and 3 and 4. So an array of arrays. So it's a nested array. Okay. And we are using jest. So first things first, excuse me. Let's clone this down to my local machine. Whoa. So I'm in Oscar's challenges. If I list everything out, I've got a bunch of directories of challenges. So I'm going to git clone. I already forked it over from Tom Preet's GitHub. So now I just have to clone it down. Great. So I can list everything out again. And I've got that sum pairs right there. So I can clear that. I'm going to CD into some pairs. There we go. I'm in some pairs. List everything out. I've got my README, my JavaScript directory, and my Python directory. Next, I'm going to open up some pairs in the current VS Code window by running code space -r space period. It's going to reload VS Code. It's going to open it up into a new window. So I'm going to open up some pairs like so. I'm going to split the spec file over here. There we go. So cool. So we have to add tests, but I don't know how to write JavaScript tests yet. But in here it says for JavaScript, we want to use jest as it will translate into React testing later. Well, oh, gotcha. All right. So I'm going to open up the getting started for jest. And okay, it looks like I can do yarn add --dev jest or npm install. What is npm? Does anybody know?
It's the package manager for JavaScript, as like pip is for Python.
Yep. And so jest is a testing framework for JavaScript, whereas unit test already comes installed in the Python language. JavaScript doesn't have anything like already installed in it, like that the language. So it relies on third-party libraries, most of the time third-party, or open source libraries for that other developers have written and to make our lives easier. So instead of writing our own testing framework from scratch, a bunch of developers got together and were like, hey, we need a relatively easy to use testing framework or testing package. And they came together and they created jest, and it's a npm library that any developer using JavaScript can go install and start using. But there's a bunch of other testing libraries out there. There's, Jasmine, there's Chai, there's Mocha. I'm sure some of you have heard those terms before, those libraries before. There's Enzyme. Enzyme is very specific for React, but Jest is really straightforward and relatively easy. So I'm on here and it says npm install -- save dev. And I'm just looking down here. It's like, okay, get started, hypothetical function. We have a sum module.exports. I haven't seen us export. So I've seen us exports.sum, but I haven't seen module.exports yet. Okay. So looks like we have a file called sum.test.js. All right. So we might have to rename our file, or maybe there's a way we can make it refactor our some file to allow it to look at any testing file or any file that has like spec on it or anything. So it looks like we have a keyword or an argument called test that takes in a string as to like what we're actually testing. And then it looks like it takes in a callback that executes a function that has this word expect. So it calls this function here, sum.toBe. So it looks like it's a built-in method 3. So add the following section to your package.json file. All right. Well, I don't have a package.json file. I don't even know what the hell a package.json file is. So yeah, okay, it doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, so I'm just going to type in what is a package.package.json file. All right. So it looks like Node.js. I'm just going to open up that. So it's a package that contains a file for your root called package.json. All right. So do I just like create this from scratch? To install package dependencies. I'm going to say like how to create a package.json file. All right, here's the docs. Cool. So you can add a package.json file to your package to make it easier for others to manage and install. So it's literally just package.json. All right. So required fields. So creating a new package.json file. All right, so let's do this. You can create a package.json file by running CLI questionnaire or creating a default package.json. To create a package.json file, use the npm init command. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that and see what it happens. Because right now, there is no npm file. So I'm going to list everything out. I'm going to cd into my JavaScript. I'm going to list everything out. And now here is my sum pairs and spec file. So I'm going to run npm init and just follow the instructions. All right. So let's read through this. This utility will walk you through creating a package.json file. Great. It only covers the most common items and tries to guess sensible defaults. See npm help init for definitive documentation on these. Great. So use npm install whatever package I want to install afterwards to install package and save it as a dependency in the package.json file. Great. So the package name, let's call it sum pairs. This right here, what's in the parentheses is the default package name. Actually, let's just leave it as is. I'm going to leave it to the default. The version 1. Yeah, I'll leave that as the default. Here's a description of what the package does. I'm going to leave that as a default entry point. Sum pairs.js. Cool. Test command. I'm just going to, if there's a Git repository, keywords, don't know what that does. Author, Tom Preet, why not? But you can leave that blank if you want to. License, ISC, don't know. All right, so looks like here's the skeleton of my package.json file. Is this okay? The default answer is yes. Yes, it is. So if I open up that, cool, I created a package.json file for me. And I'm looking, license, main, description, scripts. I don't know what this means. Echo, error, no scripts specified. Okay. Let's go back to Jest because they talked about something with package.json. So it said add the following section to your package.json. So it looks like scripts right here. There's already a scripts section here. Looks like there's already a test section here as well. So I'm going to change that to jest. So test jest right there. But I skipped a big step. I need to install jest. So I'm going to do npm install jest. Oh, npm install. This --save -dev saves that as a developer dependency. You can also save it as just like a normal dependency. Doesn't really matter. But watch my package.json file as this installs. I'm going to pause for questions. What questions do you have about that process of what I just did?
That went a lot better today. Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
I got a question about when it asked you for the Git repository. Why wasn't the repository for this challenge pasted in there? Like, why did you leave that blank?
Just as default, because it's not 100% necessary to have a GitHub repository in there. Like if you want to, I'm sure there's some commands that you can run in the terminal using npm that when certain things change, you might be able to push to a GitHub repo that's attached to it. So, but other than that, I just left it blank because it doesn't hurt anything. And I can still push to my existing GitHub repository, even though there isn't a GitHub repository attached to this. Awesome. Any other good questions? Any other question?
Typically, like when you install like a new node module, it makes a package.json for you. Do you need to actively edit it when you install further things?
So if I npm installed this and it created a package.json file, if there were certain things missing, like I don't know if the scripts, I don't know if this was created when I did npm install or npm install jest. I don't know if was this automatically created for you all?
No, it wasn't.
No, also
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So from the npm install, we're supposed to get a package.json and then a package lock.json.
So when I npm installed jest, it created a packaged lock JSON file. And what this does is literally will save the versions of all the libraries that are dependent on packages within your dependencies. So all these node modules, these are all different packages that other people have written that Jest relies on. And package.json lock file just locks in those specific versions. So if anybody downloads this and npm installs to install all the same dependencies, it ensures that all the versions are correct. Because there might be updated versions in the future that might conflict with this version.
I have a question as well, Tom.
Yep.
The package dash lock JSON is the one that we actually add to the git ignore right before we commit, right?
Yeah, you can add this to it, but you definitely want to add node modules. And the package lock JSON file, you never touch, like never make edits in here, just for reference.
When I went to go install it, I got an error and it didn't create the package lock.json.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to take that offline.
Okay.
Yep.
So do you have to install Jest in the folder for every project you run?
I generally will install it in every single project. You can also install it globally. I think someone slacked that out. But I generally will install each package in each individual project I'm working on.
Is that because like that, like just in case there's new releases and whatnot, et cetera?
Yeah. So if like Just ever updates, but my one package or my my project that I worked on like 2 or 3 years ago uses an older version of Jest, and my global version of Jest got updated, and there might be some conflicts. But yeah, it's all up to user preference. All right. Cool. So now let's continue. I'm going to just copy this code. I'm going to put this into some pairs. I'm going to add that there. Add this here into our spec file. Comment that out. And I'm going to do some pairs. Great. So I'm going to clear the terminal. So I just copied like literally this stuff over. And all right. Now we can finally run yarn test or npm run test. Okay. So I'm going to run npm run test and see what happens. Uh-oh, what happened? It says npm found, great. So I ran it here. No test found. So right here it says test match. It's looking, all this right here is looking for a file with the word dot spec dot, I'm guessing this is JavaScript or some other extension, or dot test. So I'm going to rename this sum pairs to dot spec, I guess, or I can rename it to test. I think they have it as test. All right. So I renamed my spec file to sum pairs dot test. I'm going to clear the screen and run that again. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Cool. Cool. It worked. All right. So let's go ahead and run. I'm going to copy some tests over. So I'm going to literally, for some pairs, I'm just going to copy these over and make them into unit tests. So just for the sake of time, I just copied these over. So it says test expect input of array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 9 to equal 4, 5. And I have that function there. I'm saying expect some pairs with the input of an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as well as 9 to equal this array. I'm doing the same thing here. I'm doing same thing here. This one doesn't return any pairs. So I'm going to run that. And I get a bunch of errors because I get a bunch of failed tests. So I get some pairs is not defined. So it's looking for this function called some pairs right here. And it's not finding it because I'm not importing it. So I'm going to import some pairs like so. And my preference is I'm going to get rid of this. So I'm no longer doing that. Instead of doing exports.somePairs, I don't really like doing that. I liked the exports. Is it module.exports? How do they do it? Just going to look at the documentation again. Module.exports. I like to export all my functions. All right, there's some, is it modules? Oh, and I actually like writing my functions using arrow functions. So I'm going to make that an arrow function. So I'm just going to return an array of 4-5 just to see if that first test passed, because I'm literally just, it looks like this function also needs to have an array to input as well as a target number. So I'm just going to run that and see if at least one test passed. Oh, shoot. So it looks like it failed. So 2 failed. And it looks like, look at 1 passed out of 3. Cool. I'm going to pause for questions. What questions do you have?
So in comparison to do the module.exports versus the exports and then right before the function that you're calling at the beginning of the file, does one only do export the one function versus module.exports does the entire file?
That's actually a good question. I think it still does just the function. So I think because you can module that exports another function if you wanted to.
So it's just 2 different types of syntax.
Yep.
But does the same thing.
Yep. All right. So for the sake of time, I'm just gonna go ahead and start solving this one. So I need to create a variable called sum and assign it to 0. I need an answer array, which is just an empty array. And then I can not brute force it, but like loop through this one twice. So I can loop through it once and then loop through it again and see if I can find any matches. So let's do that. So I'm gonna for let I equals 0, I is less than the array input array dot length I plus plus. And if I were to run that, let's just kind of bring that down here. I'm just going to run that in here just so we kind of see what that looks like. So some pairs. Also, I'm going to do another for loop, let j. And if I do j equals 0, which is not where I want to start, because if I starts here, the second for loop, I want it to start right here. And then once it loops through everything again, when I is 2, I want j to start at 3. So I'm going to do I plus 1. Whoop. And j, again, is less than the array.length and j plus plus. And now I can grab the 2. So the first time it runs through, I can do I is 1 and j is 2. I can compare those two. I can sum those up. So I can say sum equals array at I plus array at j. And I can say, hey, if the sum equals the target, I can push both of those values into the target array, but that also needs to be an array. So array at I, which is like 1, and an array at j. And once it loops through everything else, I can just say, I can test whether or not it has, if there's a value, if there are any values in this array, I can test to see maybe the length of this array. So right now it's a length .0. And I can say like, hey, if the answer array .length, if it has a length, I might need to change it. I can just return the answer array. Else, I can just return unable to find pairs. And now for this example right here, I can console log it, and hopefully it finds 1 pair. So I'm going to come over here, clear that terminal, and do I'm not Pythoning my JavaScript. So I'm going to node some pairs, JS. There we go. Oh, looks like that's weird. Did I miss something?
Yeah, I think you need to change the length of the I loop to array length -1 so that you're still ending, like your J loop needs to end at the end and your I loop needs to end before that.
So this one,
Yeah.
I can do that, but that looks weird, doesn't it? Looks like it's an array. Oh, I think I had it. Yeah, clear. Cool, that works. Now let's actually run my my testing. So I can do npm run test. Uh-oh, 3 failed. What happened? So I'm importing some pairs. Oh, I'm not module.exporting it. So clear that, run that again. There you go, 3 passed. But does anybody, we'll cover it next week, but does anybody know that the efficiency, O of n of this?
It should be ON squared.
Yeah,
O
it's
of n
exponential
squared.
time.
Yep. So it's not that efficient. No. Let's see if we can make it a little bit more efficient. So I'm just going to copy this down here just so we have another one. So I've got array of nums. Looks like down here it's not sorted. So it's, for this to work, we need to have it sorted. Let sorted array equals how do I sort this array? Is there like
Do array dot sort, and then take 2 parameters of A and B, and then A minus B as a callback.
Do I need to do that? Or does array dot sort work by itself?
By default, it sorts from least to greatest. I think you can just invoke dot sort parents, and I think it works.
Okay. I think
Yes,
this,
if it's let's say if it has like a 20 as it's only going to sort the first number and not the second.
so it'd be A, it takes in 2 parameters, you said? A, B,
Yep.
and it returns
A minus B.
A minus B. And that should officially sort it correctly, right?
But for numerical, the sort should work. The only first digit is for strings.
Okay. Well, this should work. So instead of using this for loop, which is exponential time, let's see if we can do loop through it once. So I'm going to create a couple of pointers. I'm going to say let right equals the length of the array. So sorted array dot length. So -1. So if this array is 5, the array, I want the index. So this right value should be the very last index. So what that number is. And let left is 0 because I want to start at the first index. So I can say while left, the left pointer is left or is less than the right pointer. So whatever this index value. So if this is, let's just bring this over. I'm just gonna say input like so. Why is this highlighted? Oh yeah. So if the array of length is 0 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 -1, so it's 4. So right is 4. So 4 is the 5th value. So if 4 is, while 0 is less than 4, jump in this while loop. So I'm going to say let addition equals the sorted array at right plus the sorted array at left. So that's the sum of those two. And I can say, hey, if addition equals number, Where's the number at? Oh yeah, or the target. Not that. Oh Jesus. So target. So if that equals one another, then I can push these two values into this answer array. Answer array dot push. And I'm going to grab the sorted right. So I need an array there, the sorted right, and the sorted left. And now that they're equal one another, what do I want to do? So if whoop,
You want to add another else statement, or I'm sorry, you want to increment. Well, outside of that, if you would want to add another else if, to where if a dish or if left is, or wait, I'm sorry.
It could be either or. So
Okay.
first, I found the answer, right? This is good. Now I want to decrement the right by 1. So I'm going to say, hey, the right pointer, decrement it by 1. So now it's 3. So is 0 less than 3? Go through it. Does this target number equal one another anymore? No, it does not. So what I want to do, else if the addition, so if this is like 4 plus 1 is 5, if addition is less than the target number, I want to increment the left by 1. Because now, so right here at 4, now I want to increment. So let's actually do the target. So if its target is 9, that's actually kind of a bad because I have to go through all of them. But yeah, if the addition is less than the target, then I want to increment the left by 1 because I want to try to get to that target number. Because if it's sorted, I know that the left, if I'm incrementing the left index by 1, then when I add it up, it's going to be closer to that target. Else, so if it's not greater than, if the addition is greater than the target, I want to decrement my right by 1. Because if I add up these, the addition is greater than my target 9, then I want to decrement my right to make it, to use a value that's closer or that's smaller than the value at the current right index. What questions do you have so far?
What if the list has duplicate entries?
That would be an edge case. And then after, and as it goes, we're either decrementing or incrementing the left and right pointers. And once the left equals the right, it jumped out of that while loop. And and then I can say, hey, if the answer array has a length, then we should be good. So if I clear that, if I run that again, npm run test, it should work. Oh no, maybe it didn't work. Let's see. Oh, crikeys. Where'd it go? So it looks, it only worked that one.
So is it because sort only went over, iterated over it one time and didn't, I mean.
Yeah, let's get rid of that. No. So which one is it? Deep equals. Expected -2 plus 2. Oh. That's actually,
I think it's the order that you're putting the two matched elements in. You're doing right and then left, and then the answers are left and then right because you're sorting it.
yeah, I think that's right. Yep. Awesome. Good catch. Sweet. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thank you for catching that. I would have been spent too much time with that. So that's that. This is a more efficient. Again, the first thing you want to do is solve it. And then if you have time, try to go back and make it optimize it. So this, what efficiency is this? If you know, if you know what I'm even talking about, which you're not
It's
expected to.
Log n of n. I don't know.
It's the O of n.
Yeah, it's O of n.
Right.
So the sort probably is O of n. Well, the while loop, it's only one while loop is O of n. So you just take
2
whatever-
ON.
Yeah, 2 ON, which you always drop the constant. So it's just O of n.
Yeah,
And-
because
and-
it's the integral of, or whatever. Yeah, math.
So yeah, don't worry about that. But I just want to show you two different ways, kind of how to solve it. This is the way I initially solved it, and yeah, so cool. With that, I'm gonna actually